EA Interviews, episode 49.
Inspiration, transformation, success stories, and the Imperfect Action Round. 7 days a week. Join Mario Ficini for today's Expert Authority Effect interview.
Expert Authority World, have you ever wanted to start a business or take your existing business to the next level? I don't mean say I want to get a few more clients, but I mean truly profit and help and serve the world. I have none other than Jim Beach on today's episode, and I'm excited to bring him up because he's not only done this with one business, not only done it with two businesses, he has done it with dozens of them. He has a really great story he's going to share. I can't wait for him to share it with you and just share the behind the scenes of what it really takes to drive and profit in business. He's an international keynote speaker, award-winning radio and podcast host, and a best-selling author. He's going to be sharing all his knowledge and wisdom over the years with you. But first, let's thank our sponsor. How would you like to grow your wealth easier than you think with the change you probably don't notice anyhow automatically? That's why I started the Compounding Interest Snowball Investing with Acorns and advise you do too. Get started simply and easily today at eainterviews.com/acorns. Jim Beach, how are you?
I'm great, Mario. How are you today?
I'm feeling awesome. It's great to have you here. I got a question for you. What inspired you to start your business?
I got fired from a real job. I didn't want to start a business. It was by necessity. And Coca-Cola inspired me to follow the two security guards with the guns out the door. And so when I got fired from a good corporate job, my dream job, Mario, all I wanted was to be a Coca-Cola employee, and Coca-Cola thought otherwise.
Well, this is normally where I ask you to share something personal and, let you know we're just going to have a conversation. But you're the pro at this, and I know you're extremely comfortable, so we're going to do a little audible. Please do dive deeper into detail onto that story because I'm interested.
Well, I was a great Coca-Cola employee. I saved them $1 billion over 10 years, and I knew some very senior level Coca-Cola executives, and so I had all of the ins and everything that you would hope for, and they got together behind my back and decided that I would be a better entrepreneur. And this is so sad, Mario, but it's true. When they said that, I didn't know what the word meant. They said, you should go and be an entrepreneur. And I was like, entre what? Excuse me, I don't know those words. And so they literally helped me out the door and showed me the street. And I was lost for a year, got a job as a construction worker building houses, which actually was a great job and great experience, and tried to decide what to do. And decided I wanted to go back to school. I already had an MBA and a master's of Japanese, but I decided I needed even more schooling. And so I was going to go and get a master's of architecture. And this is an interesting lesson for entrepreneurs. I got rejected to architecture school. I badgered my way into architecture school and was able to get in and needed a job that I could do to support myself. And the requirement for the company, or the job, the business, whatever, was that it be a summertime job so that I could go to school 9 months a year. So I literally made a list of every summer business that I could start. And you can name the list just as well as I can: landscaping and pool cleaning and, pet walking and vacation babysitting for your house and all that kind of stuff, summer camp. And I decided to start a summer camp business when I was 24 years old, that by the time I was 31 had 700 employees, 90 locations in 4 countries. We were located at places like MIT, Stanford, Oxford, Cambridge, Sorbonne, UCLA, Emory, SMU, University of Michigan, great places like that. And we were sponsored by Intel and Microsoft and Hewlett Packard and Lucas, the guy who made movies, and Lego and all of that. And so my inspiration literally came to support myself. It was pure a necessity entrepreneurship. And of course, I never graduated school because the business outgrew that, by my senior year or my third year of their master's program, the business had 450 employees, and you can't really go to school full time in a master's program and manage 450 employees, so I dropped out of school, and I don't know, that's the rest is history, so to speak.
Well, it sounds like my journey just with a more successful corporate career. I just cut that whole piece out myself, never graduated either, and I'm glad to know I'm in even more good company, like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and the rest of us. But that's how it goes,
It is.
Why do we do it? Because we want to do it the way we want to, right?
That's right. That's right. So I didn't know I wanted to be an entrepreneur until I was one, and didn't know how much fun it would be. And it is one of those that that silly trite expression that maybe when God closes a window somewhere or closes a door, he opens something somewhere else. And that's 100% what happened for me, that the opportunity to do so many things has presented itself late in life and unexpectedly. I never expected to write books. That was never on my radar. Fell into that. Never expected to be on the radio. Fell into that unexpectedly. And that's one of the great things about being an entrepreneur.
Just roll with it and pivot. And I would say it's all blessings in disguise. I could give you a dozen experiences in my life too, where it was some of them I planned out and I went for them, and other ones it's like, maybe you're trying to tell me something here, Yeah. So let's get into who you help and how you help them.
Well, today I help small businesses in any way that I can. So do a lot of fundraising for businesses, lots of help with business plans and strategy execution, lots of introductions to people, especially in the money space, and lots of introductions for networking, sales opportunities and things like that. But I think most of my time right now would be in the fundraising space for a small business who needs help. And you can never run across, or you run across millions of those, right? So there's always a small business that needs help. So we try to go out there and find money. Last night was really great, Mario. I was able to go and have dinner at a restaurant that I found the money for. And it's always fun to go and visit a restaurant. I remember where we bought the booze, for example, and all of that. And the day they cut the roof off of the building so they could drop the pizza ovens in. And it's always fun when you raise the money, see it all happen, and then can go and actually have dinner there.
That sounds like a lot of fun. One of the reasons I do what I do and love helping people, launching their books, launching their live streams, podcast, whatever it is the end result. It's great that you can make money doing anything in your world, but, that's fantastic. You can get a job, you can go work here, whatever. But when you think about how do you really do what you do and design, what do you want your life to look like? It's awesome, isn't it? When you can say, here's the end result, like you're sharing, right?
That's why I have such a different view on passion. Everyone talks about how important entrepreneurial passion is and how you have to love your product or whatever it is you're selling. I don't. I've sold lots of stuff in my life that I could care less about. I used to have a purse company, a ladies' accessories company, and I put on this jacket just for you, Mario, because I know that you're a dresser. I'm not. I don't care about that stuff, right? But I sold a lot of that stuff. Made a lot of money selling that stuff. I'm passionate about being an entrepreneur, the lifestyle, the freedom, the opportunity to make more money. If I want to make more money, I start a new business and work harder, right? That's what I'm passionate about, not the stuff that I sell. And so I think that is a possible important distinction for other people to realize, that you can be passionate as an entrepreneur, but not really care what you sell. I get up in the morning really excited to go to work, and I sell stuff that I personally in a million years would never use.
Well, I love your perspective on it and the honesty, because so many people just think, I have to say this, I have to say that. What if I'm saying the right thing to the wrong people or the wrong thing to the right people? It's like, holy crap, life is short. Could you have any more anxiety? I'm all about the lifestyle and freedom too. Absolutely love what I do, who I get to help, how I get to do it. But I also love going, hey, I'm off here. I don't do this, this, and this. And I have a framework that I designed by choice. And it just supports everything I ever wanted to do. And I don't feel like I'm winning in one area, but losing in another area. So let's hear about your success stories. Who's the most successful one you've had so far?
Probably a healthcare company that we raised a bunch of money for. found the money that they needed, were able to get them on the Sean Hannity show, got invited to the White House to present the company at the White House, got invited to the White House Christmas party, and that company was even the first company ever on Shark Tank to have the follow-up segment. You know how Shark Tank does the follow-up segments? Except they were never on Shark Tank in the first place. But we were able to still get them a follow-up segment, even though they were never on there. That was that client, how can you beat that list of accomplishments for a company?
That is pretty cool. Are you able to share how you did that?
Yeah, how we got on Shark Tank?
Yes.
Yeah,
the trick is they weren't on the show, but they were in the follow-up segment.
Right. Yeah. So what we did was a stock swap with Barbara Corcoran. So Barbara had a company that she invested in at the very beginning in season 1. It was the Elephant Medicine Dispenser. It was the first deal ever done on Shark Tank, I think. That company never did very well, by the way. And Barbara was trying to get rid of her shares. And so we swapped shares for the new company with Barbara, and we had some elephant shares too. So we were able to clean up a whole bunch of other stuff. And what they did is, oh, cool, the company that was on Shark Tank is now merging with another company, and Barbara was in the boardroom and everyone was shaking hands and all of that kind of stuff. So the new company was the focus of the feature because they were, in essence, acquiring the Elephant Medicine Dispenser company.
I like that. That is a great
good trick.
Thank you for sharing it.
Yeah,
I was curious when you were saying they were never on, but they were followed up. I'm like,
exactly.
This sounds like it could be hashtag gold nugget.
Yeah, that is a good. It is a good trick because they love to do the follow-up segments because it shows that somehow the shark was proven right. You know, if the other wise money people come in and buy that company, well, then the shark is ostensibly had an exit, right? So it looks good for everybody. And, you know, the Shark Tank results are just not as good as many people would suspect. You know, they don't have that many huge success stories. So
well, I'm glad they do the follow-ups, and I think it's an important thing to do the follow-ups. When I tell people about following up, it is so important because one of my interviews, he interviews millionaires and billionaires, and he was sharing a story with Steve Forbes. It's the Arthur Robinson Jr. episode. And so many times people go, I want to do this. They love hey, we had a success. I just got a new client. We just landed a new project. We just got a new deal. Whatever the case is, celebrate all wins. Absolutely. But then it's like, what happens after the fact? It could still go wrong from there. It could go right. What happens? Maybe you've followed up with them 6 times, but maybe it's the 7th that's going to give you the breakthrough. And at any point in time, you have that negative thought and the positive thought both going, who's going to win? Who's going to win? And it's like, if you can just have that persistence, that perseverance. I've had some guests on the show. Some of them I know, some of them I didn't, but they've all said, thank you for following up with me. I've just been busy. And when you have ultra successful people who I wanted, such as yourself, I did realize this wasn't going to be like they're just sitting around and I just can pick up the phone and reach them one time. But I wanted the best of the best for Expert Authority World. So thank you for sharing with us. Tell us, how has your podcast helped your business?
Well, the podcast, number one, has become a business. So eventually I was doing well enough with it that it turned into a real radio show, and now we're on 24 AM FM stations around the country. So we have, you know, ads like normal people, and then there's the sponsorship opportunities, and there's other ways to make money from the podcast too. There's some other income streams there as well. But the most important thing is that it makes you the quote unquote authority expert, right? You are the guy. And so it's, you know, one thing to say you have a podcast. When I was able to jump over to the radio, that gave a ton more credibility. The simple idea that anyone can have a podcast, but somehow, somewhere, someone selected me to be on the radio. Of course, that's not true. If people understood the radio, they would have no prestige or anything like that. Just like the words best-selling, I think, have been best-selling author. Those words have no longer have any real meaning because of some of the changes that we could talk about. But when I was able to make that jump, my speaking fee was able to go up tremendously. People interested in having me at their events, that's been a huge help. The ability to get a book published. So I still publish traditionally. I think I'm going to switch to publishing, self-publishing soon, but I still have had success with getting publishers. And it's very simple. You want to get a publishing deal? Well, you call the publisher and ask him to be on your radio show and interview him on your radio show. And then after the interview, you say, hey, you want to hear about my book? And at that point, they say yes. Every publisher wants to be on the radio to promote their books. It makes sense, right? And there's some great publishing companies out there that I've been able to use that strategy with. Morgan James, Greenleaf, some of the self-help publishing series as well, some of the entrepreneur series. So that's been a huge benefit. And then I think the greatest benefit, so all of that's tangential. The real greatest benefit, Mario, is that I get to meet people that otherwise in a million years I would never get to meet. And there's two categories of those. I get to call up people and say, hey, would you be on my show? And then also I can, number two, sit around and wait for someone to publish a book. When they publish a book, they hire a publicist. That publicist wants to get them out on the radio, and so they call me and say, hey, would you like to meet the founder of North Face Clothing Company or UGG Boots? And when I had the founder of UGG Boots on my show, my 15-year-old daughter thought I was the coolest person on earth because I was able to say hello to the guy who invented the boot that she likes to wear. So you get to meet cool people.
I would have to agree, too. I mean,
yeah.
Not everyone's going to be your client, not everyone you want as your client, but that doesn't mean they don't have value that won't add to your audience and help a lot of people that shouldn't be showcased.
Exactly, yes.
So let's talk about your books, because this is one area I absolutely love, and I do for my clients. We just launched another book, and I have more coming up, and I just came out with an idea for maybe another one for me. But I think it's so important when you're talking about the expert authority effect, if you will, what I've branded everything as, because it's exactly it. So many people have the information, they have this level of expertise, and the only place they show it is one-on-one or in a closed meeting, and they never think to turn it into other assets. But that's one thing I liked about you when we talked even years ago. You had done it. So tell us, why did you want to write the book, and how's that helped?
Well, the book came from a bet, and that bet came from another bet. So I used to be a professor.
I got to say right now, you are giving the best behind-the-scenes stories for all this, because sometimes people say, I've thought about it for 10 years, and it's my life's goal, and all of these things as to why they have their book, the podcast, the speaking, whatever. And you're just like, no, this was a bet. This one I fell into. Please tell me about the bet. I just got to say I love it, though.
Okay, so bet number one was I was a professor at a downtown university teaching MBA school at night, and I bet my class that I could start a business that semester, make it cash flow positive that semester, repay all my startup capital that semester, and they got to choose the country and the industry that I would start the business in. So they chose Pakistan and furniture. So I had 4 months to build a profitable Pakistani furniture company. I won the bet 12 semesters in a row. And a reporter for Bloomberg heard the story and was like, well, that should be a book. And I was like, well, I'll make you a bet. If you find a publisher, I'll write the book. And he said, okay, I'll take that bet on. And so together we put together, and Mario, you're in the publishing space, so you're going to love this story. We put together a half-page proposal and sent it to one publishing company. And 2 days later, they called and said, let's talk about this. And 3 days after that, we had a signed deal with McGraw-Hill. So you hear the story. I sent out 200 proposals, and I got 199 rejections. And finally, the 200th publishing company said yes. We sent out one proposal and got a deal in under a week, and they actually paid us money too. We got an advance even, which is rare in today's world. And what that speaks to, Mario, is how good our pitch was. The thesis was so compelling, so unique, so sexy, so counterintuitive, the exact opposite of what the publisher believed. And I was able to say, but we're going to prove it, that the publisher said, well, I want to read that book. Prove it. Prove your thesis. And so it speaks to just the hook. If you can get a good enough hook, you can get a book deal in 1 week. So there's the backstory of that one.
Well, I've been trying not to laugh this whole time, but that is so – I love it because that is the entrepreneurial spirit at its best, because
exactly.
So many people have I need to do step 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have to start at the bottom and pay my dues and all this crap, as I like to say, and it's just untrue. If you have an idea, if you have something you want to go for, run after it, even if – I'm still trying to wrap my head around this. You bet someone you could start a successful business. You let them pick the country and the industry, and you successfully launched a Pakistani furniture business.
Yeah, go on my LinkedIn profile.
With your tagline of, if you want this as a book, I'll make you a bet.
Yeah. So go on my LinkedIn profile, everybody. Go to Jim Beach, and I will connect with you. So hit the connect button and scroll down to the very bottom of my work experiences, and there's a company called Timeless Chair, and look at the picture and tell me it's not the most beautiful chair you have ever seen. What we did is we took 100-year-old Persian rugs, Oriental rugs, and we would cut them up at a factory in Karachi, Pakistan, cut the rugs up and use that as the fabric for a traditionally shaped American Archie Bunker type chair, you know, a good old-fashioned American armchair. But it had 100-year-old fabric on it, so it was a work of art, beautiful, beautiful piece of furniture. It was a $2,000 chair, and we were able to, I'll tell you how I won the bet. So the chair cost me $450 to get it built and shipped to Charleston, South Carolina. I then sold that chair for $2,600, $3,000. I only had to sell 3 or 4 chairs to recoup my initial investment and get back into the black, right? By limiting my investment. I didn't spend $50,000. I went out there and spent like $4,000. But for $4,000, I got, 10 chairs. I only had to sell 2 of them to win the bet. It was rigged, Mario. I rigged the whole thing.
You designed it in your favor, as business should be. I wouldn't say rigged at all. You didn't do anything unethical. You did it smart. You did what the 1 out of 100 companies does. Everyone's out here doing all these things going, yep. I just got a new client for 20 grand, 30 grand, 40, 50, and they fail to realize it's costing them 19.5, 44, 6, whatever it is. You want to have, and it's the thing I teach in my training program, it's about the profit margin. It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep, right?
Yes. Oh, yes. And I always, the one thing that was important about that was that it was a very high-end product. You can go buy a chair at IKEA for $200. This was a $3,000 chair. And you probably needed to buy 2 or 3 of them, and then the ottoman was probably extra as well. And we were making, a lot of money as a high-end product. I'd rather sell a high-end product and justify the price by saying it's better, the service is better, the training you're going to get from us is better, than sell a low-end piece of junk and not make any money. So you might as well set your prices really high, I think. It just sets yourself up for success from the beginning.
I'm in agreement 100%. I'd rather justify the quality one time than apologize countlessly for poor quality. And when I'm working with people too, it's the same thing, because you can do a book cheap, you can do a training cheap, you can do video cheap, you can do speaking cheap, or you can do it high end and actually profit from it and not have to kill yourself and, maybe actually have some fun along the way. So speaking of speaking, how I'm going to combine these two. How is speaking and video, because it's just different formats, but how has speaking and video helped your business?
Well, speaking almost is the business, right? That is one of the most important pieces and something that I focus on tremendously. The opportunities there, there's a lot of need for great speakers right now. The most important thing is that I think you need to have some life experiences. I don't want to be mean to anybody, Mario, but I meet a lot of people who haven't done anything but want to speak about that. Haven't done anything and want to tell me about how they haven't done anything, and I don't get it, right? The most interesting speakers are speaking about an experience they had that you haven't had, like climbing Mount Everest or something like that. So I would encourage everyone to go have some life experiences and here's the best lesson I've ever learned. If my speaking business is slow, that means it's time to start a new business, which attracts attention to me, which then gets me hired as a speaker. Not spending more time on my speaking business by trying to go out to associations and say, hire me, hire me. You can spend all year doing that. And in that year, I could have built a new business that's so sexy, unique, and compelling that I got hired as a speaker because my business was sexy, unique, and compelling. And therefore, people were talking about it. So it's just like dating, Mario. Whenever I need to get a date, the best thing for me to do is ignore women and run in the opposite direction. And that's when they seem to look at me, so I don't know. Maybe I'm not good at any of those things.
Well, I love your insight on it, and I agree, because it seems like when you're trying to go after something, it doesn't always work out the way you want, and when it's off your plate totally, you're like, oh, everything's working out, because I believe, and I teach my clients this, it's about you. It's about becoming more, not doing more.
Definitely. Oh, yes. It's all about personal development. So if you are not continually self-evaluating, being dissatisfied, and trying to improve, your business will never grow. It's not the business's fault that it's not growing. It's your fault. And a business grows as big as the CEO is capable of it running. So if the business is stuck, it's not the business, it's you.
As long as we're ruffling some feathers here, I'll say one thing before we go to the sponsor. So many people say, I'm having a business problem. I'm having a big business problem. What's your biggest business challenge? What's your biggest business problem? Everyone always asks that, and there are no business problems. There's a personal problem you're bringing into your business.
Yes.
So we're going to go to the sponsor, and I'm excited to bring you up for the second half for the Imperfect Action Round. Invest automatically, save for later, and spend today. That's why I love Acorns. I used to think spare change didn't make a difference and saving and investing was an old-fashioned manual process. It's not. And it's a game changer. If you're not leveraging compounding interest in your business and life, automatically you're missing out. Acorns not only makes saving and investing easy and automatic, it makes it even more valuable by investing with diversified portfolios, spare change, extra cash, and rounding up everyday transactions. You can even set recurring monthly investments in the amount you desire. To make good great, there is also a debit card option that will continue to help you save and invest even further when you spend. Plus, no minimum balance and overdraft fees. Now, for the cherry on top. They have partnered with 250 plus companies and brands, and growing, with their Found Money program to invest back a percentage into your account with the everyday purchases when you shop. 2 of which you're probably listening to this right now through an Amazon or Apple device. Get started profiting from your everyday life and business simply and easily today at eainterviews.com/acorns. Once again, that's eainterviews.com/acorns. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back with Jim Beach, and we're ready for the Imperfect Action Round. Jim, are you ready to take imperfect action?
I am. I practice every day.
Same as me. I love it. Number 1, what is the fastest path to the cash?
Not worrying about the cash. If you're running toward the cash, that doesn't sound to me like you're focusing on solving a problem. So I don't understand how you're going to get any cash. The fastest way to cash is solve a problem that people don't like to have. Acne. Solve acne, then people will pay you, right? So I don't want to focus on cash. Let's focus on solving a problem and making the world a better place.
Like that. Number 2, what is the biggest problem you see with your prospects making, and what's the fastest way they can overcome it?
The biggest problem everyone makes, I think, is inconsistent marketing. They market for a week, they get busy producing or fulfilling orders or whatever, marketing falls to the wayside, and all of a sudden they wake up with no work to do, right? My number one piece of advice is you should market for the first hour every day, regardless of what else is happening. So spend that first hour of the day doing marketing, and I think that you can avoid the biggest problem, which is inconsistent cash flow. And why do you get inconsistent cash flow? Because you have inconsistent marketing.
I love that answer. And not just doing the marketing first thing. I tell people very similar. Set aside time before you go into the office, whether you wake up at 4 a.m., 6 a.m., 8 a.m., 10 a.m., whenever. Block away some time, with your daily success routine, as I call it, before you go into everything else. And when you do go into everything else, what are you doing with that first hour, that first 2 hours? Are you connecting with people on your team that can multiply and leverage your efforts? Sales, absolutely. Marketing, absolutely. Too many people just jump into all of this and go, why did everything turn out a catastrophe? So thank you for not only answering, but going into detail as to why this, not only the symptoms, but the cure for it also. The last thing I want to ask you is, how do you maximize the customer lifetime value?
By over exceeding their expectations at the beginning, right? So my friend owned a painting business. That's very simple, right? You paint, but you over exceed their expectations and do things that no one ever expects. Like, for example, you tell your painters, under no circumstances are you ever allowed to use the customer's bathroom. They just don't, no matter, even if they offer it, you're not going to do it. And then they would always exceed expectations by paint the house. Okay, but we're also going to paint the dog house matching colors. We're not going to charge you for it. We didn't even ask. We're just going to do it. And then we're also going to clean your brass lanterns in the front of the house. We're not going to ask whether you want it done. We're just going to do it. We're not going to charge you for it. And all of a sudden you're telling your friends, hey, hire this painting company. They did more than I asked them to, and they didn't even charge me for it. That's how good a negotiator I am, they would say. And it was just all given to them. If you exceed expectations every single time, you don't have to worry about any of the other stuff.
You're giving the best answers. I wish we had like 3 hours to do this. And I'm going to bring it into what I'm going to ask you in just 2 more questions. So I see some books behind you. What's a number one book you could recommend?
School for Startups by Jim Beach.
It's a great book.
It talks about the Pakistani furniture company and explains even more of that story, but it explains my lessons of absolute obsession with minimizing risk and reducing creativity. I don't care about creativity, but if I had to say a book that was not my own, I would recommend The Millionaire Next Door or The Millionaire Mind. They just came out with a brand new version of The Millionaire Next Door by Dr. Sarah Fallaw, Fallaw. Her daddy wrote the original book, Dr. Charles Stanley, about 30 years ago. And it's the best book I've ever written or read about how to manage your life as an entrepreneur. And, the simple fact that millionaires don't flaunt it, right? We don't try to show off that we're millionaires. And those are the people who, typically are. I love the statistic that 3 out of 4 people that drive a Mercedes can't afford to buy, they lease. A millionaire doesn't do that. A millionaire drives a Ford Explorer.
That's great wisdom. Where can they find you? I know you had mentioned LinkedIn earlier, but why don't you tell us about School for Startups and where they can find you?
Yeah, so do hook me up on LinkedIn. I connect with everybody there, and I do post there with regularity so you can see what's going on. I am at jimbeach.com, so you can go there, jimbeach.com. And the radio show is schoolforstartupsradio.com. And then just type in Jim Beach on Amazon, a couple books there, and have some new ones coming out, just like you, Mario. Books are easy. Write books, everyone. It's easy once you start.
Couldn't agree more, Jim. Well, that's it for now. It's been a pleasure, and I thank you for coming on the show.
It's been my honor. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, everyone. Another great episode. We'll see you next time. God bless.
You're already successful. You've worked hard to get where you are. We both know it wasn't overnight and hasn't always been easy. No doubt you're the expert on your subject matter. But do your prospects in your marketplace think of you first as their go-to trusted advisor all the time? ExpertAuthorityChecklist.com is 100% free and reveals the 21 steps to determine if your prospects view you as the expert and authority of your marketplace or if it's just all in your mind. Important required steps like, do you have a process in place for prospects to self-identify if they qualify for your time and expertise or not? Does your current offer have the 7 components of an irresistible offer required to make it a no-brainer for your prospects? Do you have a real-life paperback book showcasing you as the subject matter expert you can actually hand someone? Get your free checklist now at ExpertAuthorityChecklist.com. Once again, Expert Authority Checklist to make sure you have the 21 steps covered. It better not be more, but don't leave those 1 or 2 things you may have missing go any longer. Visit ExpertAuthorityChecklist.com and make sure you're being seen as the expert and authority today. Once again, that's ExpertAuthorityChecklist.com. Get your copy now.
Spare change? How's that going to make a difference? I know that's what I thought before I started investing with Acorns. Throwing change in a jar is not very leverage and time consuming, but what about all the transactions you don't use cash for? You know, like majority? Acorns not only invest your spare change automatically with roundups, it also lets you add a preset amount to each transaction regardless. It's pretty inspiring to see how quickly and easily you can end up with a pile of cash instead of a pile of receipts. Get started simply and easily today at eainterviews.com/acorns. Once again, that's eainterviews.com/acorns.